We're really at an extraordinary point in our evolution as humanity. We have this chance to step out of that repeating cycle and actually move into higher consciousness. We are being guided and supported to be in this evolutionary leap. We have a choice. We can resist, or we can open to the ways the energies of the earth and sky are trying to guide us. We've got these comets that are coming into our solar system, 3I Atlas, this interstellar being that I think are all part of this profound wake-up call. We just have to listen. Pay attention and listen.
Guy here, welcome to my Let It In podcast. And my beautiful guest today is Heather Ensworth, psychologist-stroke-astrologer. Beautiful lady. Honestly, I love talking to Heather. She's just got a gorgeous presence about her, and it was just wonderful to connect. I love connecting. I love what I do. It's amazing and being able to share it with you. We get into the conversation about what's the planetary shifts that are happening. I don't know a huge amount about astrology, but Heather breaks it down beautifully today, and I kind of quiz her from all angles. And also 3I Atlas, this, you might have heard of this comet that's currently coming through our solar system as well. So I wanted to hear her take on it, and if it's just random or if it's all by divine orchestra. Fascinating conversation. I have no doubt if you listen to it in its entirety, you will get a lot out of this today. And of course, if you are listening to this on YouTube, please be sure to connect and let me know where you are in the world. I've literally just got back from New Zealand doing events, and I'll be flying to Croatia in 2 weeks. There's a lot going on in my world, but I love it. I'm loving life and loving to be able to share these things with you as well. If you are on the journey, and obviously I'm assuming you are by listening to this podcast, we developed a free HEARTT guide. It's kind of one of our values. It's a great place to start if you're leaning into this work, and something you can print out, put on your fridge, and help remind you how to actually start to come to more of the heart than just the head, which is what I'm definitely all about. And be sure to keep connecting. Hopefully I'll meet you somewhere in the world in person one day. Much love from me. Enjoy this podcast with Heather. It's awesome to share this with you. Heather, welcome to the podcast. So lovely to meet you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm really curious to see where this conversation goes today. And like I mentioned off air, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to the stars and astrology and things like that. But I'm excited to see what comes out of it. But I like to start the conversation, as always, is if you were sitting next to a stranger at an intimate dinner party and they asked you what you did for a living, how would you reply?
I would say that I'm an astrologer, but I integrate my background in clinical psychology with my astrology. And really, I'm on a path trying to do what I can to support the healing in the world in this powerful transition time that we're in.
It is certainly a unique time in history right now. It feels that way. That's for sure.
And part of my interest in astrology, so I actually started out in cultural anthropology, then was in clinical psychology, then morphed into astrology. And part of my interest in astrology has been looking at the larger cycles historically that we go through, the astrological ages, the 24,000-year precessional cycle. So from that perspective, this is such a profound time on the planet where we're really moving from one astrological age into a new one, the age of the Aquarius, but we're actually at the end of a 24,000-year cycle and the beginning of a new one, and coming out of the time in that precessional cycle when we're at our lowest level of consciousness, the last 5,000 to 6,000 years, into a radical shift into higher consciousness. So it's extraordinary to be on the planet in this time of accelerated change and transformation.
at what point are we within that? Like when you think of 20, like my mind is going 24,000 years, like holy moly, that's a, that's a lot, that's a fair chunk of time, right? And time frame. And then we speak about this cycle coming to an end and coming into the new one. Over how many years is that transition, if that makes sense? Is there like an epicenter, a point of like, right, this is the definitive turn?
I mean, that's a great question. There is no sort of definitive endpoint, beginning point. It is a transition time. I really have a lot of respect for Biphu Dev Misra and his work on the Yuga cycle, which is the same as the precessional cycle. It's analyzing that 24,000 year cycle that we go through. And he describes how he thinks we go through like a 300-year transition period between ages. What I think is different about this time that we're in is that I think we're really at an extraordinary point in our evolution as humanity when we have the capacity to make an evolutionary leap rapidly into a higher consciousness. Normally, in the precessional cycle, we go through 12,000 years of the ascending cycle of increasing in consciousness, and then 12,000 years of a descending cycle, which we're just coming out of. But I believe that instead of just incrementally increasing in consciousness again, we're at a very unique choice point as humanity where we can actually make an evolutionary leap into a higher dimensional consciousness.
That's wild. That's wild. And okay, the two things that are screaming at me, like, because it's opening up so many loops already. And one that's come to mind is about consciousness itself. Then, what is consciousness? But then, what you're saying then is that the way these cycles and the way the planets move and the stars align are actually affecting our
Yes.
us individually and as a collective, the way we behave, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we interact with each other within the world right now.
Oh, beautifully said. That's exactly right. And I'm not totally clear what that is that has influenced that 12,000 years of increasing consciousness, 12,000 years of decreasing consciousness. Again, Biphu Deb Misra, he and I interact a lot. He would say it's where we are in relationship to the galactic center and how we're impacted by energies coming from the galactic center. I also think it's related to the fact that it is most likely that our sun and solar system is a part of a binary star system, meaning that our sun is in a dance orbiting with another star. And there's a lot of evidence that would indicate that that star is the star Sirius, the brightest star in our sky. And the binary star orbiting is like a figure eight. And I think it may also be influenced that when we move furthest from our binary star, we forget what we once knew and who we were. As we come back closer to that star, we begin to regain the wisdom and the consciousness that we had lost. So I think there are a number of factors that come into play energetically, but I do believe that this is a unique time where we have this chance to step out of that repeating cycle and actually move into higher consciousness.
Oh, what what do you think it's going to take for us to do that? To go, yes, let's do this, and everyone's like going for it. Because here's the thing, Heather. Like, I was telling you a little bit about my journey off air, and and through observation, and now being 50 years old, I've been able to live enough life to start to see my own evolution of awareness and consciousness and the relationship to myself, and feel into that it's a very real, tangible thing, that it is a growth and that's with it, and the way I interact with people, the universe, and energies is evolving. It continues to evolve, and but it was almost like I was shut down to it, and something had to be awakened within me for those elements of me to sprout and grow. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, that's so well said. And what you were saying before we got on the recording about going through that spiritual awakening and that Kundalini rising, it activated, I'm sure, your remembrance and awareness. Oh, I'm a soul self having this human experience. We come into this realm from the spiritual realms, and then we forget, and we get caught up in this human experience, and we need support to awaken and remember that we are infinite beings. We're soul selves journeying through these different lifetimes and incarnations. And when we begin to awaken to that and align with our soul self again, then it really opens the doors to that higher spiritual consciousness.
Yeah. So, do you feel that we're going to see all this within our lifetime? These choice points and making, like, is it going to be the next few years? Do you see it over the next decade? This lifetime, this transition that's talked about a lot at the moment.
It is talked about a lot, and I really believe that we are at a critical choice point as humanity, and that we are being guided and supported to be in this evolutionary leap. But we have a choice, and we can resist that and try to cling to the paradigms of the past, or we can open to the ways the energies of the earth and sky are trying to guide us to go through this transformational process. And my sense from my reading of the astrological energies is that this time from 2025, particularly March 2025 to 2032, is the critical transition time and critical choice point. And my sense is that if enough of us awaken, open to this higher consciousness, and emanate that into the morphogenic field, the collective consciousness can shift. But if too many of us are clinging to the patterns of the past and resisting this transition, then I think we'll be on a very different trajectory starting in 2032.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? So, what would you say to people to help them then feel into? Because obviously, people listening to this podcast or listen to a podcast like this, I'm assuming are on the path. They're awakening to some greater potential. And how do we begin to feel empowered in a way that we are contributing to this shift? Like, what have you found from your own experience? Because some people are obviously, introverted, where we kind of more fearful about what might be happening, and we're looking for answers or looking for ways to navigate through these times, especially when we start waking up to the fact that these things are actually happening and going on.
What I really think is important to realize is it's not about doing something, it's about being in that energy of love and higher consciousness. Because the more we can align with that within ourselves, the more we're emanating that energetically into the morphogenic field. And I think in many ways, that's the most powerful form of social activism in this time.
How do you use astrology in your personal life then? Is it from a case of, well, looking at the patterns, looking at using history as a reference point as well, and knowing what's going on, you're then able to relate it into what's happening within yourself, or what's happening, knowing when to. It's like I was only speaking to my wife this morning, and I was like to say to her, I actually feel like I'm coming out to the other end of some squeeze or energetic pressure that's been happening over the last few months, and we both acknowledged it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel like I could breathe again. It's that part of that wave has passed. but I'm thinking then, wow, I wonder. My thought was, because especially because I had you on the podcast, I wonder what Heather would have to say to this. Is there something that's been happening astrologically at the moment that's affecting us, but I wasn't aware of it. I'm just holding space for myself while I'm going through it. I hope that makes sense. What I'm saying.
It makes total sense. That's a really good question. And if you're about age 50, part of what you've been dealing with has been going through what's called the Chiron return, which is a very powerful time where it can activate issues from the past and issues that may be unresolved to support you in healing that to step even more fully into your gifts. But we've also collectively been dealing with some really powerful planetary energies, particularly with the three outermost transpersonal planets, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, all being in this synchronization together. Neptune's the midpoint, and Pluto and Uranus have been trining each other, but all three of them have been in this dance with each other that is activating profound transformation for us collectively. And for whatever points they're activating in our own charts, they're bringing all that transformational energy to bear. So it's a powerful time. And part of, for me, my approach to astrology isn't predictive or deterministic. It's not looking at, oh, there's this configuration. How's that going to impact me or the world? For me, it's when we realize, which we're understanding now with quantum physics, that everything is consciousness, then these planets, it's as above, so below. As it is outside of us, so it is within us. As it is within us, so it is outside of us. So these planets and there are patterns with the stars, with each other, give us a way of visually understanding the energetic patterns that we're in and how to work with that consciously. So to me, they're guiding us and supporting us both individually and collectively in how to be on a path of growth and evolution. And then we realize we're not alone. We're not separate. We're a part of the connection with the natural world here on the planet and the energies of the sky that are all in this time of transition and all supporting us in seeing the patterns, opening to the energies, moving into more consciousness.
I love it. So, could it be fair to say then that if everything is consciousness, the planets, the stars, the space between, it's all a fabric of an intelligence, a field of energy. So then ultimately what's happening is for our evolution, is for our greatest good, like a loving parent almost that's guiding us. But we're just not aware of it or what we're in because we kind of so, I don't want to use the word programmed, but we're so bombarded with the state of the world and the fears. It keeps us in a certain paradigm that we're not looking beyond ourselves of what we are, who we are, what our potential is, and what we're actually have with us in support if we're willing to actually start to tap in.
Very well said, because I think that, in ancient cultures, and this is part of what I've been interested in, if you look back at ancient cultures dating back like 12,000 years ago, they were aware of how everything is conscious. And we're more right brain dominant, we're more telepathic, we're more able to commune with the plants and animals and the stars and planets. It's been in the last 5,000 to 6,000 years that we've gotten caught in this sense of separation and disconnection and left brain dominance and forgotten what we once knew and forgotten that we're a part of the oneness of all that is. But all of that's awakening in us again. And as we come back into that awareness, we realize we live in the sea of cosmic consciousness. this wisdom and love that permeates all that is. And then we can open again to being in connection, being in relationship, and knowing that we're supported and guided in this time that we're in now.
Yeah, through that, right? How did you end up getting into astrology then? Like from your profession, did you always have a spiritual feel into your life, or was it something that you gradually awakened to in your own journey? I'd love to know.
I came in with a strong sense of needing to be on a spiritual path. So that's always been with me. And I part went into psychology to try to integrate it with spirituality, to be supporting others in healing. And I was well established in my career in psychology and doing well. I was living the other side of the country in California at that time. And when I was about 38, I had this very powerful mystical experience where I heard this voice within say, "You need to leave your life as you've known it, or you will die."
Really?
It, it was a very powerful experience. And I knew this voice, I haven't had many mystical experiences like that, but this was just so powerful and clear. And I knew it was true. And I ended up then across the next 6 months deconstructing my life. My friends thought I was insane. You know, uh, closed down my practice, sold my home, moved across the country to I didn't know what. So it was really for me one of those times of being in a rite of passage where my life as I'd known it ended. My identity as I'd known it ended. And I was in the mystery, in the not knowing, trusting that I would be guided and supported. And it was a transition process that took time. But it was in the midst of that as I started exploring other paths of healing, ancient wisdom traditions. I ended up randomly finding myself in a workshop on shamanism and exploring that. And then I was actually at another workshop on women's spirituality where the woman leading the workshop, it was Vicky Noble, said, "Well, I'll do an astrology reading for anyone who's interested." And, up to that point, I'd always thought astrology is ridiculous. But I thought, well, here I am. Why not? Just have the experience. And it was such a powerful experience for me that I then just dove deep into studying it and never looked back.
Wow. I'm so glad I asked. I had no idea. Because that's where the rubber meets the road, right? That's the true, metamorphosis from giving up, letting go
Yeah.
of everything. That's the caterpillar doing the butterfly. Because I can so relate on my journey when I sold out of my company. But I was shit scared. I was terrified, even though I was getting
Yeah.
to do it.
Oh, I can totally relate. I used to wake up in the middle of the night just in a total panic attack. Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What am I going to do? How am I going to, I'm the sole financial person responsible for myself. How am I going to make this work? It was very challenging, but I never doubted, like I'm sure with your spiritual awakening, there was this sense of this is in alignment with my soul's path. I need to just keep moving forward and trust.
You need to keep doing it. Yeah. How did, like, when you hear that voice, when they said, if you keep doing this, you're going to die, was it like, as in, you could feel yourself empty in terms of you wasn't loving what you were doing anymore? Or was it a case of something serious might happen?
The interesting thing was, I found that work very meaningful and I loved working with the people that I was working with. I was aware that I had been so driven in my work that I was burning myself out. I was also aware that I was on a path of supporting others and finding their voice and stepping fully into their gifts and not doing that myself. So my
Mm.
sense and why when that voice came to me, I thought, oh, this is all true. Because I realized I was really on a path of burnout that was taking more and more of a toll physically, and that I was more and more uh, putting myself on hold and not really tuning into who am I and what am I meant to be doing with my gifts in the world. I'm helping everyone else discover their true self, heal the blocks, move into being in their own self expression. But I'm not in that alignment with that in myself.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Then, from your days of psychology to, you know, the transition and now the path that you're on now, what have you come to learn through your own belief system what healing is and what it actually is required to for us to heal?
Oh, that's a great question. We could talk about that for hours. Well, part of what I realized and part of why, and this is the other reason I left the profession, I felt like I had taken that form of healing as far as I could go. I mean, I got my PhD in clinical psychology. I did a 4-year advanced training after that. I was constantly doing workshops, supervision, and I felt like I've gotten as far as I can go in this modality, and I see its limitations. And it led me then, when I left that profession, to start exploring more ancient healing traditions and wisdom traditions, and realizing there, in those ancient cultures, they had more of that understanding of the interconnectedness of body, mind, and spirit, of how we're energy bodies, and all these other ways of healing that aren't about our conscious awareness or our cognitive abilities or making behavioral changes. It's really working at a deeper spiritual and energetic level to support the emotional, mental, and physical healing. So that's some of the way I got into shamanism, Chinese energy medicine, herbalism, other forms of energy healing, just exploring those other ways of healing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We've been so conditioned to just address the physical and not look at the other aspects of it. Um, I remember I was fortunate to have Gabo Mate on the podcast a few years ago, and yeah, he's a great guy, funny guy actually. Very dry but very funny at the same time. But I remember he spoke about these very things and how there was a gentleman, I can't remember his name, that he spoke of, that the biology can't be separated from the psychology, but then the psychology can't be separated from our environment, but then our environment can't be separated from spirit. But yet we only ever address the physical aspects of these things and not looking at the whole. And and even though my own journey wasn't until we started doing that, then I really started to feel these shifts in emotions and feelings that were for so long my identity, but actually it's not me. That wasn't me, but it was just shaping the
Yeah.
lens of how I perceived any given moment in life, because I couldn't. It was like a splinter trying to pull a splinter out of my soul. I always say, like I couldn't get at it for such a long time. Um,
Well, and part of what I really know through my studies of clinical psychology is how much we're influenced by what's unconscious. So we can make these cognitive behavioral changes, or we can understand even what we're dealing with emotionally in our conscious awareness. But so much of what's influencing us is what's been pushed into the subconscious or unconscious. And part of what I think is powerful with shamanic ways of working and energy healing is that can support us in shifting things energetically that then support us in making those emotional shifts and support us in shifting things that we may not even be fully consciously aware of.
Mm.
And part of what I love about astrology, and I work with evolutionary astrology, is the chart can show you what are some of these blocks or wounds or challenges that may be really impacting you, and how do you work with them. It guides you in all of that. And you can see in the chart what were some of the past life traumas you experienced that may be affecting you in this lifetime, but you have no memory of it.
You can do that?
I work with Yeah, I work with so many people that will tell me I'm blocked. I'm trying to do this and I can't figure out why. I just get frozen every time I'm trying to be on this path. And then I see in their chart, oh, well, you had past life trauma when you tried to do this in your last life. And this is now how you can work it through and clear that. Because I've really realized that those experiences that are unresolved from the past lifetime carry over into this lifetime and get reenacted in some form, not to re-traumatize us, but to try to help us see the pattern so that we can finally heal it and clear it. But oftentimes we just get caught in the coping pattern of trying to manage it without realizing it's still controlling us.
All right. Now that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it? So, what would happen if you're working with someone, they give them the reading and they could say, oh, look, due to the time of birth and when you're born and then all the rest of it, that these are potentially the blockages. What does the person then do with that? What have you found just by bringing awareness to it alone, it can start to shift in that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when I work with people and point these things out, there's this overwhelming relief. Like, oh my goodness, yes. You know, the soul self knows the full reality of who we are and what we've experienced, but it helps the personality witness it and be aware of it. And then you don't need to know what was the whole detailed story of that trauma, but when you know the theme, then you know how to work with it. And it also helps people realize, as you were saying a few minutes ago, oh, that's part of where I get activated in fear because that trauma happened in my past life. I can stay aware of it, be in my witness self, and not just be controlled by it anymore.
Wow. Yeah. And how is that when you were doing that? There's a couple of things. This might seem like a silly question, right? But how was this information learned in the first place? How do people, like, when you think about when my mind goes there to astrology, my mind boggles. I just don't have the computing power. Who the hell figured this out in the first place? You know what I mean? This wisdom that's been there for, I don't know, millennia, right?
Millennia. One of the interesting books I've read recently is called Prehistory Decoded by Martin Sweatman. It's really about Göbekli Tepe and some of these other ancient sites. But part of what he was describing in the book is how our most ancient language that goes back tens of thousands of years is the pictorial understanding of constellations and patterns in the sky. And it's our connection to the energies of the earth and sky. So this is so ancient in us. And I think in ancient cultures, they knew how to attune to the energies of the plants and planets. I mean, they didn't take a plant and take it to a lab and test it endlessly to see what its biochemical composition is and what that might do. They communicated and communed with the plants, and the plants told them what their medicine was. And I think that's true of the planets and stars. You know, the Dogon people in Africa talk about for thousands of years communing with the star Sirius, and they knew about Sirius B before we discovered it with a telescope. So I think in more ancient times, we remembered we were a part of the oneness of all that is and could be in that, those other ways of knowing. But it's since we've gotten disconnected that then we, and we've gotten very caught in our left brain. So then we're trying to learn it and analyze it and understand it from outside of ourselves rather than from being in relationship with it.
Yeah. Wow, that's so well put. The because even the Aboriginals talk of dream time, and the ones especially that have not been
Yes,
affected by Western society at all, and they spend more time with spirit than they do in physical. They're just in this constant place of presence, of being, and some of the things that you hear that they're capable of is mind blowing, and you're like, wow, we can really do that. Like that's innate in all of us, isn't it? And this
it is innate in all of us. And I think this is what's coming back online if we
you took
open
the
the
words right
shifts
out
that
of my
we're in.
mouth. Like this is what's happening, right? This is the potential that we're having. Because I do even wonder about that in my own personal journey. That the right here, right now, how much of this is being supported due to the shifts of swimming in these shifts. That it's a lot been creating these activations within myself. You know,
Absolutely.
and I wonder where that's going and what
Absolutely.
that potential is.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's so exciting about this time that we're in. If we open to the energies that are guiding us through this metamorphosis, like the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, we're in the chrysalis time now, where all the old patterns are breaking down and going into chaos. But it's not to take us into destruction, it's actually to take us through this transformation into radically new ways of being.
How
Peruvian shamans that I studied with called it our metamorphosis into homo luminous ones, beings of light.
hmm, how do you navigate these times? Do you ever get caught into the fear of things, or you kind of feel very much removed? Like, and I'm thinking of the listeners as well, because it's easy to hook into what the noise of what's happening out there. But and the reason why I asked this is because when I went through, looking back in my life, there's been multiple rites of passages that I said yes to and lent into them instead of suppressing them and running away. And through those rites of passages in life, those choice points, I've certainly grown from them. At the time, I just wanted them to bugger off and leave me alone. This put it lightly. But on reflection, I'm thinking, wow, what an incredible experience to live those highs and lows, and overcoming Goliath, being David kind of thing. Is like, wow. And it's certainly allowed me to feel much more anchored, present, grounded in reality, and not using the spiritual kind of movement to use as an escapism to run away from
Yes,
what's happening as
beautiful.
well. So I don't know exactly what the question is, but this then, how do you navigate all of this within your life with all these things that are happening? Because I just want to encourage listeners and people to know that the more present we are within ourselves, the more we can actually navigate it. Because there's no running away from it. We can't duck or dive it.
That's so important. There's no running away from it, and it's dangerous to do a spiritual bypass and just try to rise above it and pretend nothing's happening here and disconnect from being fully here. We're here on the earth plane to be in this embodied experience, to be in this emotional experience. But when we have that spiritual awakening and realize I'm a soul self having this human experience, it helps us not get caught in fear because then we realize we're a part of infinity and that this experience that we're having is to support our growth and evolution. I think some of the dance that many of us are in this turbulent transition time is if you're caring and empathic and sensitive, it's hard to see the level of turmoil and suffering that's going on on the planet right now. I think in many ways, part of what we're seeing as we're in this transition time is the purging of the old destructive patterns, meaning we're also seeing the worst aspects of the shadow aspects of humanity right now. And I think it's important to hold that with compassion, but not get mired in it so that it pulls us down. Because the more that we can hold the larger vision of this death rebirth that we're in, this time of healing and awakening and transformation, then we can hold that energy, emanate that healing energy, love, higher consciousness out into the world that helps support the healing of the world and helps the shift.
In between now and 2032, you believe you spoke of, that's that transition time. Are there any cycles within that cycle that we should be at least aware of or mindful of that's happening that can help us navigate this shift?
I think 2025 is the most powerful, intense astrological year that we've been in recent history, for sure. This has just been an accelerated time of deconstruction of the old paradigms, activation of the new. The conjunction that will be in, that's already been in process, but will come into exact conjunction February of 2026, Neptune and Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, is a huge turning point in terms of supporting an activation into new forms and into more fully integrating that spiritual part of ourselves. This combination with the 3 outer planets that's going to continue across the next few years is continuing to move us all through a transformational process. And then we've got these comets that are coming into our solar system. We've got 3i Atlas, this interstellar being that's coming, that I think are all part of this profound wake-up call.
What is that? Because in my naivety, when I looked at the notes this morning and you'd sent through, oh, we can speak about 3i Atlas, I was like, what's that? Like, because I had no idea that's how far removed I am from the world half the time. So what is it? Like you mentioned, it's a comet, is it, or a being, or?
It's this they call it an interstellar object that was identified beginning of July of 2025. It is billions of years old. It's coming from some other part of the galaxy. It is moving at this very accelerated pace, 130 to 150 miles an hour through our solar system. It's amazingly enough only 5 degrees off alignment with our ecliptic. So its energy is activating our whole solar system, our sun, the planets. It's making a close pass by certain planets that I think is very significant also. But I believe, and I've, been interacting with some people who've tuned in psychically. Kelly Kolodny, brilliant channeler, channeled the energy of this interstellar being. Um, Other people have really tuned into it, and I've tuned into it myself. And I really think this is bringing a very high frequency, high level of consciousness and activating that in our solar system to try to help us wake up, help us remember what it means to live in harmony, remember that we're a part of the sea of cosmic consciousness. So it's a very powerful time, and this is a very powerful celestial messenger coming to us.
There is no accidents, right, in this living field.
Exactly.
So is that comet passing us? Is it like, is there going to be a point where it's going to be the closest to Earth before it, starts going beyond our trajectory?
So what they've realized is it's not a comet.
Oh,
It's some kind of interstellar.
I apologize.
So that
Wow.
well, no, that is what it was defined. It was defined as a comet, and NASA's saying, well, it's an unusual comet. Well, it doesn't really fit the ways a comet behaves. It doesn't. So I think it's this other entity, this other consciousness that's coming in, that is part of the effort of cosmic consciousness to support us and help us wake up. But it's profound. It's already made its pass by Mars, October 3rd. Interestingly enough, I think that's a part of what's supported the shift to the ceasefire in the Middle East. Because in activating Mars, it was basically challenging us to get out of these out of balanced expressions of Mars, which are war, power over, conflict, to come back into balance. Now it's moving into, moved behind the sun. It will be at its closest to the sun on October 29th. Then it's going to make a pass by Venus, November 3rd, come closest to the Earth, December 19th, make a pass by Jupiter in March, and then it'll be moving out of our solar system. But I just today actually put out a video about the synchronization of its movements coordinated with critical times in the lunar cycle, full moons or new moon times, with critical times in our Earth sun cycle, equinoxes, solstices, cross quarter holidays. It's like it's in this synchronized movement to seed this higher consciousness and support us in making this shift.
That's incredible.
It is, it's mind blowing.
The December 19th, then, is that going to affect us like the day is closest to Earth energetically?
I think it's going to have a very powerful effect on us when it moves into its closest to the sun, which will be October 29th, because its energy will merge with the sun, and all those solar energies that are really impacting all of us right now will be activated by that energy. And then its closest pass to the Earth is December 19th, on the day of a new moon, 2 days before the solstice. Those are times, the solstices and these other equinox times are times when the Earth ley lines get most activated. It's going to be really, I think, heightening energies on the planet to activate our pineal gland to support us in expanding our consciousness.
I'm really going to start looking into that, because they say as well, the correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the solstice like where they say the veil is the thinnest? That's a really good time to really be connected.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The equinoxes, the solstices, and the cross quarter holidays are when the veils between the worlds are thinnest, and we can open to these energies more fully. So how amazing is it that it's, synchronized, it's passed by these planets that also then their energy impacts us at these critical times.
Yeah. Incredible. Incredible. Couple of other questions for you before we wrap up the podcast on those things. But what kind of practices do you have for your own self-development, grounding with all this that's going on? What are your go-tos that help you found?
Part of what was really powerful for me in the shamanic training that I did is learning about the ancient medicine wheel, which is an ancient walking meditation practice that was known around the globe in ancient cultures. Different versions, different variations of it. But it is, from my perspective, such a powerful ceremonial meditation process where you're connecting with the energies of all the directions, all the elements, that the earth and sky, but ultimately coming to center where you align with your soul self and with the oneness of all that is. And I find that practice incredibly powerful.
Interesting. So you tune into the elements first. Is that what you like?
I actually, I can walk it, or I sometimes do it just honoring the
Yeah.
directions here in the office where, I attune to each of the directions, their energies, their connections to different elements, different stars. Then I walk that. Then I come into the center where I realize, oh, I'm integrating all of that and aligning with the earth and sky, coming to center, connecting with my own heart, which opens me to the oneness
Mhm.
of all that is.
And then listen.
Yes, exactly.
Do you
Well, I open it every day.
do you have teachings on that? Do you help people through that as well if they wanted to learn that?
Yeah, I actually put a medicine wheel meditation on my YouTube channel to support people who wanted to work with that.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And just before we wrap up, Heather, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't asked you today in terms of the work you cover and what you do and even the conversation? Because it's such a critical time that we're living in such a beautiful time, I think, where we have this opportunity to become a butterfly. But is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wish I had, or do you feel like we've got it covered?
No, I think you've asked great questions. The only thing I would add is, before you and I got on the recording, we were talking about our own awareness of how important it is to listen. And to me, part of what's so critical in this time of transition that we're in is to listen to the energies of the earth and sky. I find the deeper I explore these astrological energies and connect with the earth and the plants and the animals, the more I realize they are trying so hard to get their messages through to us, to support us. We just have to
Mm,
listen, pay attention and listen.
absolutely, isn't it? With the amount of distraction there is in the world right now, or things to keep us distracted, it's no wonder we feel disconnected and coming back to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
So take to the future and listen.
exactly, yeah, for sure. So where can people find out more about your work, Heather? If they want to, where can we send them to?
My website, risingmoonhealingcenter.com, and my YouTube channel under my name is where I put out a lot of information and astrological updates.
Ah, fantastic. I'll check those out as well. And Heather, it's just been a joy. Honestly, I feel so calm in your presence, listening to you and the way you share this information. It really has been a joy having you on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And thank you, as I said before we got on the recording, I really appreciate, I've watched your podcasts and appreciate how you listen and how you open to your own learning through these experiences. And that's a gift. So thank
That
you.
means a lot. Thank you very much, Heather. Thank you.
All right.